Hello, welcome to the Horror Channel. Today we have another super sleep-inducing horror flick, Transplant. John Wei is a biological research scientist. To remove the ugly birthmarks from his and his daughter's faces, he often locks himself in the lab to conduct research. We see him preparing a serum and injecting it into a test subject, then placing a piece of rat skin onto his face. In just a few seconds, the skin instantly fuses together, but this time, an accident seems to occur. Agitated, John Wei frantically grabs his notebook, flipping through it step by step to find where it went wrong. But time waits for no one. Instantly, John Wei's mouth is sealed shut by spreading tissue. He immediately grabs a scalpel. Unfortunately, his daughter is frozen in fear on the spot, helplessly watching her father collapse and die. In the blink of an eye, several years pass. Jessie has been studying the experimental results left by her father. She not only wins a full scholarship, but also secures a spot to study abroad in New Zealand. It just so happens her aunt lives in New Zealand. To have better conditions to fulfill her father's dream, she decides to study there and board at her aunt's house. But her aunt's daughter, Angela, doesn't like her very much. As soon as Jessie moves in, Angela clamors for her to leave. But Jessie, unfamiliar with the place, has no choice but to swallow her pride and stay temporarily. The next day, she gets lost on her way to school. Luckily, she meets a homeless man. After John tells her the direction to the science building, she arrives at the lab, eager to start her research. Unexpectedly, Jack suddenly appears behind her. He glances at the notes in her hand with great interest and invites Jessie to be his lab assistant. But this is just a facade for Jack. He mostly wants to steal her father's experimental results. Jessie, wanting to conduct better research, obviously won't let this opportunity slip, and agrees. Not long after, when Jessie returns home after class, she finds Angela watching a horror movie with two friends. Always having low self-esteem, she wants to fit into their circle, but she is met with disgust and exclusion. Over time, she remains as she always was, alone wherever she goes. She can only watch secretly from a distance, admiring Laura's appearance and their friendship. To fit into the circle, she decides to be brave for once and steps up, offering to treat them to char siu barbecue pork. She says it was her late father's favorite food. But after arriving at the restaurant, the group doesn't like this kind of food. Soon, Angela takes the other two and leaves. Seeing this, Jessie feels very disappointed. She helplessly packs up all the food and brings it to her father and the only person who will speak a few words to her, the homeless man. But Jack's arrival interrupts their conversation. He says he wants to do research with Jessie and even gives her a ride home. Naive Jessie mistakenly thinks she met a good mentor, thinking her hard work has been recognized. Little does she know, Jack just wants the data she holds. Sure enough, in the days that follow, after Jack sees the research results, he deliberately finds fault and gets angry in the lab, and even recruits a new lab assistant. Lisa is the new person Jack hired. Undoubtedly, she replaces Jessie, but to Jessie's surprise, on the way back, Lisa acts very politely. This makes Jessie, who has never felt warmth, see friendship in Lisa for the first time. Soon, she suddenly notices a poster on the ground. The picture on the cover is the corpse flower her father had always been looking for. Using this plant as a component for the experiment will surely achieve the effect she wants. That night, Jessie follows the address on the poster and arrives at the botanical garden where the corpse flower is. She finds a saw, cuts through the chains, and quietly sneaks inside. Finally, she successfully obtains the component she needs. Impatient, Jessie rushes to the lab overnight. Preparing the materials needed for the experiment, she endures the pain and cuts a piece of skin from her thigh. Then she places rat skin on the missing area. After injecting the reagent, that area recovers visibly well. Clearly, she has finally succeeded. But this scene happens to be seen clearly by Jack, who is hiding in the dark. Turns out Laura and Jack are hooking up. The two were interrupted by the noise Jessie made doing experiments. Jack angrily prepares to go out and see what's happening. While Jessie shares her experimental results with him, Laura snaps a picture of the scene, planning to use it to get her kicked out of school. Soon Laura deliberately walks out, acting jealous, and drags Jessie away. But Jessie forgets her notebook in the lab. Jack happens to see this. He steals the notebook asks a classmate to help translate it, and steals the research results within. The scene shifts. Laura takes her to a remote place and talks about what just happened, because Laura has no idea that Jesse was just sharing research results with Jack. Thinking she is stealing her man, she describes Jesse with very filthy words and dumps her alone in the wilderness. This causes Jesse's admiration for her to slowly turn into resentment from the bottom of her heart. And what makes her even sadder is, as soon as she gets home, she finds her father's memorial shrine has been destroyed by Angela's own hands. The emotions and grievances accumulated over a long time make her completely explode in this moment.
Fuck you! Fuck you!
Just like that, Jesse accidentally kills Angela. Seeing the other person stop breathing, she is at a loss. Aside from fear, her mind is a complete blank. She desperately calls out to her father, asking what she should do now. Eventually calming down, she makes a decision. She drags Angela into the bathroom. Looking at the potion in her hand, she decides to change her face and turn herself into Angela's likeness. After preparing herself mentally, she takes the scalpel to her own tender skin. Then, just as she is about to start on Angela, she hears her aunt's voice message saying she is on her way back. Hearing her voice frightens her into panic. Without time to think too much, she hurriedly slaps Angela's skin onto her face. Accompanied by the sound of grinding bones, she is reborn, transforming into Angela. After completing the experiment, she immediately runs to Angela's room and tidies up all the clothes on the bed. The body is hidden by her under the bed. When her aunt comes in, she pretends to be safe and sound, mimicking Angela's daily behavior perfectly. The aunt, being Angela's own mother, doesn't notice at all that the Angela in front of her is missing those two uneven front teeth. The next day, she removes Angela's teeth and replaces her own front teeth with them. Watching videos of her, constantly imitating her behavior, she seems to enjoy everything she has now. Under her careful dressing up, her classmates around her notice nothing abnormal. Even Angela's boyfriend doesn't recognize it and asks her out for a trip. But after the two arrive, an accident happens. Cracks start to appear on Jesse's face, oozing tomato juice blood. Soon, Angela's skin falls onto Andy's face. Terrified, Andy steps back and falls from a height. Just like that, Andy is completely dead. After returning home, she keeps looking for the notebook, only realizing it's gone and was left in the lab. She frantically calls Jack. By this time, Jack doesn't want to answer her calls anymore because he has already gotten the answer. All the Chinese inside has been translated, and he also discovered the picture of the corpse flower. When Jack goes to that botanical garden again, he finds the flower has already withered because its most essential part was taken by Jesse. But fortunately, some usable parts remain, and Jesse also returns to the lab to look for the notebook. She angrily dials Jack's number again, but he claims that he is the lead scientist of this research. Hearing this, Jessie feels extremely furious. Taking the things from the lab, she prepares to leave. But coincidentally, she sees Laura when getting off the elevator. This woman she hates with a passion sparks an idea in her mind. Coming down in Angela's identity, she finds an excuse to ask Laura for a ride back. Her best friend naturally won't refuse. Soon, she successfully gets in Laura's car. Back home, she specifically asks Laura to go shopping tomorrow. The next day, seeing Laura's figure and appearance, she is very envious. The purpose of asking her out is to study her daily behaviors up close. So after Laura leaves, she stares viciously at herself in the mirror, swearing to send Jack to hell. At night, she invites Laura to her home. After entering, she locks the door tightly. She tells Laura she has something to show her. When Laura follows her to the room door,
Angie.
is anyone there? She is scared by this scene and runs downstairs, but she discovers she can't open the door at all. Upstairs, Jessie calmly turns off the lights. Holding a drill, she heads downstairs. Luckily, the aunt never had money to renovate the house, So there is a big hole in the back door that wasn't fixed. Laura had been to Angela's house a few times before and successfully escapes through the back door. But unfortunately, the area is fenced off and she can't get out. Seeing Jessie catching up, she fearfully improvises and dives directly into the pool. When Jessie catches up, she still notices the bubbles Laura made in the water. She grabs Laura by the hair and brutally drowns her in the water. Soon after, she drags Laura back to the bathroom. Just like changing Angela's skin, she turns herself into Laura. Her goal this time is to retrieve that notebook and make Jack pay a heavy price. But unexpectedly, the police arrive the next day. They say they received a report from the school that a student is missing here. Hearing the voice, Jessie freezes on the spot. At this moment, she is terrified inside, afraid the police will discover the two bodies. Plus, being the criminal herself, she dares not look the police in the eye while speaking. She makes an excuse that she needs to go upstairs to get dressed, and leaves the scene. Fortunately, the police don't notice anything unusual when she returns. They just leave a business card and depart. Time quickly moves to night. Realizing the house isn't safe, Jessie prepares to drag the two people to the yard and bury them. But because Angela's dog keeps howling, it accidentally wakes up the old lady next door. Seeing the neighbor walking over with a flashlight, she puts the bodies in the pool and hides in the dark.
Jesus Christ.
I'm Eve. Angie's friend, and I heard you yelling. I'm afraid she's not in at the moment.
That's typical, isn't it? Now, I already warned that girl. Somebody has to take care of the dog.
She's a real spoiled bitch, isn't she?
Right. You be sure to tell her, okay?
Good night.
Good night.
Scene shift. Jack is also experimenting seriously. After discovering he has truly succeeded, he can hardly suppress his excitement. He immediately texts Laura, saying he is going to be a Nobel Prize laureate, and asks Laura to come celebrate with him. Little does he know, Laura has become Jessie. Receiving this message, Jessie is furious. She decides to go to Jack's house to check the situation. As soon as she arrives at Jack's house, she sees him taking a bag of powder from the cabinet. After he leaves to enjoy himself, Jessie finds the hidden serum inside, but she sees in the mirror that her skin is starting to peel off. To prevent the plan from failing by being recognized, she grabs the serum and immediately leaves Jack's house. Jack, realizing something is off with Laura today, immediately goes to where the serum was hidden. Sure enough, it's gone. But luckily, the notebook is still there. Jessie didn't find it. Jack also realizes the person in front of him was Jessie. With a change of shot, Jessie has just returned home. Unexpectedly, Lisa arrives at the scene. Startled, she hurriedly hides all those tools. Lisa brought her a sumptuous dinner. But while they are talking, Lisa inadvertently opens the refrigerator door and discovers Laura stuffed inside. At night, Jack arrives at Angela's house. After getting out of the car, he finds Laura's car parked at the door. Realizing the situation is wrong, he doesn't knock. Instead, he sneaks in through the back door. Obviously, this isn't his first time here. As soon as he enters, he discovers a bizarre scene. He knows the person in front of him is Jessie. Curious, he asks what she actually did to them. Jessie says, "I'm doing what must be done, or rather, what you forced me to do." Hearing this, Jack loses patience and asks where she hid the serum. "That is my father's research result."
That was my father's work!
I'm gonna make a historic discovery.
Then Jessie tells him the serum is in the refrigerator. Jack can't wait and turns around immediately to get it. Afterward, she ties Jack to the table, treating him as her test subject to toy with as she pleases. But Jack's screams happen to be heard by the old lady next door. Just as Jesse prepares to kill him, the old lady suddenly bursts in and witnesses the scene. She realizes the place will soon be surrounded by police, so she immediately packs her tools and flees. Running for who knows how long, she escapes into a subway entrance. She happens to meet that homeless man. John hides her in his embrace, but then the serum in her hand falls to the ground and shatters. Just like that, the two fuse into one. Time passes. People have almost forgotten this incident. But the aunt alone hasn't moved on. She not only lost her daughter, but also lost Jessie. That night, on her way home, the aunt meets a girl who looks very much like Jessie, holding her favorite char siu barbecue pork. But when she runs up, she finds the person isn't Jessie at all. At this moment, a massive figure appears beside her. Terrified by this sight, the aunt flees the scene. Little does she know, the one in front of her is exactly who she was looking for. In the end, Jessie lost everything. Actually, the film hides many details in cinematic languages. For instance, the corpse flower. It has a certain symbolic meaning. The corpse flower needs to steal nutrients to survive, echoing the essence of this experiment, stealing others' bodies. Also, it still has residual value after withering, hinting at Jack's greed and Jessie's obsession. Even if it seems to have ended, there still exists a fuse that can trigger destruction. Additionally, the director hid another cinematic language, such as the two close-up shots of the char siu. It is a symbol of food and emotion. Once when Jessie gave it to the homeless man, echoing the ending. The other time was the scene of the aunt holding it, echoing Jessie's inner feelings. Char siu as a Chinese food carries the importance of family affection and belonging. The contrast between being rejected and being sought after implies that the warmth Jessie sought her whole life was never obtained by changing her skin. Alright, the story ends here.